What is up, guys and gals? Welcome to Tausify. My name is Tausif, and today we're going to be reacting to The Critical Drinker. And since this is the first time reacting to Critical Drinker, I've decided that today we're going to be reacting to Star Wars. Here we go again. Well, I have voluntarily abstained from watching Star Wars. The last movie that I watched was The Last Jedi. I haven't watched another Star Wars movie ever since. Did not watch The Rise of Skywalker. I've watched Mandalorian Season 1 and 2. But, yeah, I didn't watch anything else regarding Star Wars on purpose. I heard that Andor is pretty good, and I've also heard about a few other things here and there being good. But mostly, you know, there's a problem with the Star Wars franchise, especially with the main movies that come out, especially in the writing department. It's actually pretty abysmally bad, and yeah, that's why I've been abstaining from the Star Wars franchise. As judging from the title of this video and the fact that they've hired a woke female director, there's no problem that she's female, but it's just the thing that the pandering that they're gonna do next. I'm not hopeful that my abstinence is actually gonna be broken by the next Star Wars movie, but we'll see. So yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and start this video and hear what Drinker has to say about the future of Star Wars.
Another day, another controversy, because a person said a thing and now half the internet is angry about it and the other half is angry at the people who got angry in the first place.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Honestly, we're only a few days into 2024 and already we have our first big battle for the empire of dust that is current day Star Wars. And in this case, the source of the controversy was Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, the director of the upcoming Star Wars movie focusing on Rey Palpatine.
Rey Skywalker.
Palpatine. I mean, Jesus, I've already said my piece on why turning stacks of dollar bills into crash barriers would be a more efficient way to spend $200 million or whatever embarrassingly huge amount of money they end up blowing on this turkey, so I won't repeat myself here. Instead, I'll just get right to the heart of the matter. As you probably noticed from looking at her, Sharmeen is a person of the female persuasion, and apparently that's real important when it comes to directing Star Wars movies because
and we're in 2024 now, and I think it's about time that we had a woman come forward to shape the story in a galaxy far, far away.
The old, it's time for demographic X to do arbitrary thing because current year argument never gets old, does it? Now, when this clip started doing the rounds on the internet, the reaction from the Star Wars fan base was so thermonuclear that I think even Rachel Zegler breathed a sigh of relief. It's like a relay race, I guess.
No, that wouldn't happen. I don't think it beats Rachel Zegler levels of cringe.
There's going to be someone else waiting to say the next dumb thing and take the heat away from whoever's in the firing line at the moment. Not only did Sharmeen's statement conveniently ignore the fact that women have been represented as the protagonists of 4 out of the past 5 Star Wars movies, the writers, producers, directors and stars of multiple TV shows and video games, virtually the entire Lucasfilm story group and the president of the entire studio, but it also played into all the tediously predictable tropes that have come to define the culture of modern Star Wars. The obsession with identity over personality, the narcissistic sense of entitlement, the trampling of the legacy of previous generations, the idea that you're owed something purely because of your gender, the realization that no matter how much ground is given and how many concessions are made, the demand will always be the same. More. And I think after enduring almost 10 years of smug, overpowered girl bosses who can magically do everything better than the men around them, the Star Wars fanbase are kind of over the whole female empowerment thing now. It's not new.
I actually liked Daisy Ridley. I wish she did some other stuff other than Star Wars. I mean, she's a decent actress. Like, she's not like, it's all her fault. Like, it's the writing, right? So yeah, I think she actually is a pretty nice actress. But I hope that she does something else. Yeah, I wish she did something else other than Star Wars, because Star Wars is rotten at this point. Like it's a pretty rotten dead horse, you know, and they're still beating it.
Breaking inventive or admirable anymore. It's become the norm, as tediously predictable and stale as the damsel in distress trope from decades earlier. The reality is that the stage had already been set for something like this when Obaid-Chinoy was first announced as director and people began to learn more about her background and career. A Pakistani journalist, documentary filmmaker and feminist activist whose main focus was on highlighting the plight of women in Pakistani culture. I mean, that's admirable work indeed, but the question on most people's minds was, what the fuck has that got to do with Star Wars?
Exactly.
The answer seemed to come in the form of previous interviews that
And also, he's sitting there with Karan Johar, so I think she's also Pakistani. So what if like the next Star Wars she does straight up feels like Bollywood? Because you know, Pakistani movies and Indian movies and Bengal, they all have the same kind of homogenous kind of vibe. It has the same like homogenous type of style of filmmaking, you know what I mean? Pakistanis and Indians and Bangladeshis. I'm from Bangladesh, so I grew up watching all these Bollywood, Pakistan, and Bangladesh stuff. So you know, that makes me even less hopeful.
Magically resurfaced around the same time that seemed to offer some insight into her mindset as a director.
I like to make men uncomfortable. I enjoy making men uncomfortable.
If I need to stand up and face a man and look at him in the eyes and scare him off a little bit, I do scare Pakistani men off a little bit. That I do, and I enjoy that power.
I am working to bring something that makes you uncomfortable, and
So her dream is to be sexist. I don't know. Like, why do you want to threaten men? This is so weird. So if a woman, if men say that, if a man says that, oh, I want to threaten women. When I look at a woman, she should feel scared. Like, imagine if a dude straight up walks into the room, grabs the mic, and says, "Oh, all the women in the room, I want each and every one of you to be afraid of me." That'd be fucking creepy as fuck.
Enjoy that power.
I am working to bring
such a
something
sick
that makes you
mentality.
uncomfortable, and it should make you uncomfortable.
Now, I'll be the first to admit that this doesn't sound particularly good when taken at face value, and it goes without saying that if a male director was to sit there and proudly
Exactly.
declare how much he enjoys making women uncomfortable,
That's
you can
fucked
bet
up.
your soy milk latte that his career would be over quicker than you can say, me also. But in this case, I'm about to do something that may just surprise you. I'm going to defend her on this one.
What?
Are you serious?
See, the fact is, these interviews were made years earlier and they have absolutely nothing to do with Star Wars or even the entire Western Hemisphere for that matter. She was talking about her documentary work to expose the practice of honor killings in Pakistan and the men who somehow think it's okay to literally murder women for the crime of being assaulted by other men. I mean, if you think you're having a bad day, I suggest you look it up sometime. It'll put your life into perspective pretty quick. Anyway, my point is that those are the men she was talking about wanting to feel uncomfortable in the hopes that her work might cause them
Right.
to reflect on their actions and rethink their worldview. Not an unreasonable position, but the problem is that when a clip like that surfaces at the same time as her interview about Star Wars, the human mind naturally forms a link between two completely unrelated things and assumes the worst. Shit man, we even covered it on Open Bar the other night, which is partly why I wanted to clarify it here. Now, none of this is to say that I think she's going to produce an amazing Star Wars movie, or that she's particularly qualified to take on a massive project like this in the first place, or that I agree with her reason for why she should be doing it, but I do think it's important to be fair in our criticism and not misrepresent people's opinions just to farm some quick outrage. Anyway, I digress. Back to the point at hand. You know, every time someone makes a statement like that, my question is always the same. Why? Why exactly is it time for a woman to direct a Star Wars movie? It's got to be more than just, it's 2024 now. And that's not to say that I'm against the basic premise, but what I'm questioning here is the logic of the argument. Because normally when you make a bold declaration that a thing needs to happen, it should be followed up by some kind of understandable rationale to justify it. Otherwise it would be like striding up to your boss and demanding a raise with no evidence of why you deserve one. Just as a quick example off the top of my head, I think it's about time I disposed of the corpse of that double glazing salesman who just wouldn't take no for an answer because it's starting to stink up my living room and it's only a matter of time before the neighbours start asking questions. In this case, I've established a clear problem that needs to be addressed, and while other people might propose different solutions, nobody can argue that a solution of some kind is indeed required. So what exactly is the problem that needs to be solved in this case? Well, according to Sharmeen, it's that no woman has ever directed a Star Wars movie. And this, of course, is factually true. Out of the 11 Star Wars movies that have been released so far, all of them were directed by men. But why is this a problem? Are men inherently bad at directing Star Wars movies? Would women be better at it? Well, men have certainly directed some bad Star Wars films, that's for sure. I don't think many people would argue that Rise of Skywalker was a good movie, or Solo, or The Phantom Menace. But then again, A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi,
Exactly.
and even Rogue One were all pretty good films, all of which were directed by men. But what about women? Are they different somehow? Well, in the world of Star Wars, we've had Bryce Dallas Howard direct multiple episodes of The Mandalorian, most of which turned out to be pretty good from
Those
a
were
directing
awesome.
perspective. Not so much the writing, but that's not exactly her responsibility. So, nice work, Bryce. Then again, Deborah Chow directed every episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi, which was almost universally terrible, with some of the worst staging and cinematography that I've ever seen in a Star Wars production. Not so good, Debs. So what can we take from this? Well, it's almost like male and female directors are both capable of producing good and bad Star Wars projects, none of which has anything whatsoever to do with their gender, and everything to do with their individual talents, skills, and abilities as artists. So why do we have to demean them as individuals by reducing them down to a monolithic collective based on an irrelevant aspect of their identity? Why is it time for a woman to direct a Star Wars movie? More importantly, why is it time for this particular woman to direct a Star Wars movie? Well, I suspect you know the answer already. It's the same reason Kevin Feige proudly declared that we needed more female superheroes in the MCU, the same reason he hired inexperienced directors like Chloe Zhao, Kate Shortland and Nia DaCosta to take on massive projects that they were totally unprepared for. The same reason Lucasfilm were forging ahead with yet another movie about a character nobody cares about. It looks good. More importantly, it makes them look good.
Pandering.
It allows them to pat themselves on the back and say they're doing their bit for the greater good by fast-tracking people into roles they're totally not ready for on the basis of their innate characteristics, and then conveniently forgetting about them when their projects inevitably fail, rather than taking on the longer and more difficult task of nurturing real talent and allowing people to gradually work their way up to top-level projects once they're ready. And if anything, I think this approach does a real disservice to the many talented and capable female directors already out there by reducing them to the status of token diversity hires chosen because of how they were born rather than their capability as artists, and provoking audiences into blaming them for failed movies that were never going to succeed anyway. Like, for example, another movie about the adventures of Rey Palpatine.
Rey Skywalker.
You and me are going to have a long talk when this is over. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
At the end of the day, this is what I think. Well, male, female, director, actor, actress shouldn't matter as long as the actual product is good. So if the actual content is good, I don't think it should matter. If it's directed by a man or a woman. So basically, if you actually think about it, the whole premise and the plot of the entire, of the Star Wars movie, whatever they're gonna make, I'm pretty sure it's gonna just be about, oh, Rey Skywalker is a woman and she's Skywalker, Palpatine, whatever, and therefore she's just better, and like that's like oh, she's just a girl boss, and doing that over and over again, that in and of itself is not a comprehensible plot, a comprehensible writing. You know what I mean? You have to have some substance that has some innate value to it, which draws people in. But if you don't have that, if it's just pandering for the sake of pandering. Oh look, it's a strong female protagonist. Oh look, directed by a strong female director. Oh look, it has all these feminist messages. Oh look, it's so woke. Therefore, if you don't like it, therefore you're a sexist, misogynist, bigot, etc., etc., etc. And it just keeps going on and on. That's not constructive. You know what I mean? So I think that's a very straw man argument when people do that. Because we never said that female directors can't direct. You know, we've never said that women can't make good protagonists or women can't direct. You know, it's just that they lean too much into the feminist kind of woke pandering that makes it bad. You know, so I hope people don't misrepresent what we're trying to say here. If a movie's good, it's good. You know what I mean? So this was my first reaction to Critical Drinker. I actually learned about Critical Drinker and got into watching his content through another YouTuber reactor named Tyrone Magnus, and he reacts to all the Critical Drinker stuff, and that's how I learned about him, and that's how I subscribed to him, and I watch all his stuff now. And I hope through this reaction, a lot of you guys are learning about Critical Drinker, if that is even possible, because he's massively popular. He has almost 2 million, 1.9 million subscribers. So go ahead and subscribe to Critical Drinker. And of course, before you do so, give this video a like and support the channel by hitting the subscribe button and hitting the bell icon so that you get notified every single time I upload a new video. And with that being said, go on ahead, go to Critical Drinker's channel, check out some of his videos, and subscribe to Critical Drinker, and obviously subscribe to Tausify. And until next time, be good and stay Tausified.